name is Jeremy Lane, Assistant Chief Engineer of Paragon Services. I'm the new chairperson for the engineering committee, as well as Don Chestnutwood. He's the co-chair. Thank you again for joining us. Sergey from Restoration HQ is going to be presenting, and Will Mott from Climate Tech on COVID-related issues. Any questions or concerns or anything at each one of their presentations? Definitely, join in, and they'll be happy to answer them for you. Will, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Let me see if I can get this to pop back up. Hopefully this will work right. So, wasn't sure if I was presenting this to everybody or to just the engineers committee. So let me see, slideshow. There we go. So I was asked to cover bipolar needlepoint ionization. You guys have probably heard this called GPS, plasma air, a couple of other different names. So I tried to never make these a commercial for any one product. You'll see a brand name here and there. It's because I borrowed their slides from where they've done presentations for us. Bipolar ionization occurs in nature. The first paragraph kind of explains it, but basically what you're creating with the bipolar needlepoint ionization in your building is an artificial recreation of that. So you're using voltage to create positive and negative ions. They travel throughout your HVAC system into your spaces. And then what they do is they target contaminants, VOCs, mold, bacteria, whatever, and they attack the hydrogen atom in there. And once it pops that hydrogen, everything else outside of the hydrogen becomes inert and floats away in the breeze. That's the basic idea behind it. And this gives you a little bit more of a breakdown on it. The ions are passed through the HVAC system to all the spaces. They attack and pop the hydrogen molecules. And the big thing that you'll hear when you're looking at these presentations from different vendors is that you can save energy up to 30%. And what they're saying, and we'll cover this a little bit later, is that by reducing your VOCs, odors, and all that you can have fewer fresh air intakes. That goes counter to what a lot of folks are doing right now with their buildings, where they're actually increasing 1.5 to 2 times as much outside air into the buildings to get more air changes. So that's one to be aware of. I did do some research, checked into what ASHRAE says about needlepoint bipolar ionization. The big takeaway that I get from this is anytime that folks are presenting you with a product or a service, do your research. See what kind of laboratory information they have in the background that they can prove to you that it's actually been looked at and approved. Ozone is a huge one. Look for products that do not create ozone. Ozone, of course, is bad. So you want to look at products that are not going to add ozone to your building and create yet another problem for you and your tenants. And this one was stolen straight from another one of the vendors. On this one, I think that the points down in the bottom of the screen are the big ones to look at. You want to get a product in your building that's going to actively clean the air, improve your ventilation, improve filtration, and run the fan. Those are the 4 steps that you really need to be looking at coming out of the pandemic, moving forward. If I'm going too fast, somebody throw up their hand or definitely let me know. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting to the fun stuff here for everybody. Now this slide here, you got to take what the graph is showing you with a big grain of salt. If you look at the information on the left, it says if you're by a waterfall, there's 19,000 ions per cc. versus anywhere from 450 to 2,000 natural. And then they're saying within your building, it's a whole heck of a lot less. So this was a vendor that was trying to show how great their product was, but misrepresenting what you see in nature versus what you see in your buildings. So take, it's just like anything else a salesperson or a company puts in front of you. Take it with a grain of salt and ask questions if you see something like this. I like this slide here. And it shows you, it's a branded one, but needlepoint bipolar ionization versus some of the other items that folks will talk to you about, the big ones being HEPA filters, carbon filters, or UV. So it tells you, there's no harmful byproducts, reduces airborne particles. Again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. You're going to want to see some laboratory results, some white papers on this where they've actually proven that their products work. Whether you're looking at GPS or Sterilizer, Plasma Air, any of the other brands, they should have their laboratory information readily available to you via white papers or research documents that they can produce. And here's some information on UL ratings. I've seen this one with a couple of different brands. The big takeaways are down at the bottom where the CDC recommends IAQ solutions that meet at least this standard. ASHRAE tagged along with them at the same time. The big thing is the validation of zero ozone air cleaning devices. Again, not introducing more harmful airborne stuff into your building. This is a effectiveness testing showing a bipolar needlepoint ionization device against a lot of different pathogens, whether it's the SARS-CoV-2, norovirus, tuberculosis, MRSA, and it's telling you who the testing labs were. We've seen this type of information from a couple of the different vendors that have come in and asked us to look at their products. So this one was straight from GPS. They present these anytime that they go out and do, whether they're talking to a vendor or possible client. This slide here I thought was interesting. This may be more for the engineering folks or the ones that are going to actually look at this being put in. These are the different kinds of systems and different locations they can be put into a building. Again, these are branded system names, but shoot, I went down one too many. Can you all see that picture good?
Yes.
Okay. So you have an air handler, split system, wall mounted, couple of different opportunities there for different types of systems, which goes into the next one. And that is actually telling you where your install locations are. The big thing to look for is where are you going to install it and where are you going to install it? What are your cooling capacities? You're looking not only at the tonnage, but looking at the CFM ratings, and then what voltage does that piece of equipment take? So if you're mounting something in the duct, does it auto clean, or are you going to have to go in there and your maintenance guy is going to have to take it out and do some kind of a maintenance on it? If they're having to do maintenance on it, how often are they having to do it? Again, manufacturer direct information here, telling you about their product. And then I did a couple of slides here that show you the different products. This one here that I have up, we have these mounted in several of our air handlers here, along with some other branded ones. And these are kind of interesting. It's like a big Lego set. So you can modify these to where they're anywhere from a foot up to 20 foot long on larger air handlers. With the number of commercial buildings we have here, and some of the older buildings especially, I looked at one of these for a building here recently that we had to do 3 of these side by side to get the size of the coil. It was that massive. This one here I thought was an interesting product. This is actually an ion detector. Something else that you could look at in conjunction with this would be a VOC meter, looking at what your indoor air quality actually is within your space. This is telling you that, yes, you have ions actually being released into spaces. You can mount this in a main office area, or you could put these throughout your entire building to show, via your EMS system or some kind of a screen in the lobby or somewhere where customers could see it, that yes, we're putting out ions. They're actively going after all the methyl ethyl bad stuff in the air for you. I put this one up. I thought you guys would find this interesting. These are the kinds of things that you'll get in your email or you'll see online as an ad, and it tells you specifically about their product. And here's where you mount it. Here's all the great stuff that it does. And again, the big thing is it talks about, it goes after mold, smoke, dust, and pollen, eliminates VOCs, kills viruses and bacteria, and then you can cut your energy usage by 30%. This again is one of those where they make a claim, and I don't know if there's a great backup for that energy savings, because we are all pumping a lot more fresh air into our buildings. At some point, you may have the ability to start cutting back on your outside air requirements. But again, you read through this and it tells you that anybody could do it, and it's a little bit more involved. But that gives you a good representation of some of the things that you'll be seeing if you haven't already seen them coming across your emails over the next months. This one here came from another vendor's website, and then I put a link on here for a PowerPoint that actually talks about the ASHRAE standard and the problem with representing this. They're saying that you can go in there and you can cut the VOCs dramatically. I mean, it's showing it down to a quarter of the VOCs, but there's no other information or data to go with this screenshot. That's it. That's what they put up on their website. These are some other products that you'll see versus just the bipolar needle point ionization. I worked at Trane for over a decade. For the last several years I was there, we talked about the TCAC system. It's a combination system. You can have it installed in the unit from the factory, or it can be retrofitted into equipment. The one on the right is one that we recently saw from Honeywell. This actually has UV and HEPA filters, and that's for a room or space, and it's sized based upon the size of the room, the airflow, and kind of what you're desiring to do with it. Then, of course, you have UV, which has been around for many years. The thing with UV is you have parts and pieces that have to be replaced over time. So you have to look at the life cycle cost of that. And then I actually have a school district that is using that backpack setup on the right now. You drop a chlorine tablet in there and they go through each of their rooms on a daily basis and spray everything. So there's a whole lot of different ways that you could approach ionization and cleanliness within your buildings. These are just some of the different things that I've seen over the last year to year and a half, since actually before COVID, and especially since COVID hit. We've been bombarded with different vendors wanting us to sell different products. So kind of my final takeaway is anybody comes in talking to you about making changes to your HVAC, get your building engineers involved immediately. Look at the data, look at what information they can actually provide you, and ask other folks within the community what they've put in and what their results have been. But that was it. I wasn't trying to race through that too fast for everybody, but I want to make sure I gave Sergey plenty of time to talk about more interesting stuff.
Oh man, you're setting the bar high.
That was perfect.
That was very good. Thank you, Will.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Wow. Is everybody awake?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
If you'd like to type in your questions in the chat feature, one of us will read it to the presenters if they don't catch it themselves.
Okay. Good for me to go, Jeremy?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Sergey.
Everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about, I refer to as do no harm and do no harm. It's kind of a simple sentence, but, the emphasis is understand it and try to avoid it. There's been a lot of talk about, returning back to buildings, how, which way, what are we gonna do, how do we protect people? So I figured, let's talk a little bit about what the new normal will be. So, let's click. All right, so for those of you that don't know, my name is Sergey Guk. I own a restoration company called Restoration HQ. Been in the industry for about 19 years. I do hold 3 master certifications in my industry. And besides that, I have a total of about 25 different certifications. So I've kind of done this a few times and kind of know a little bit about it, maybe too much, or maybe not enough, but we'll find out. So why are you here and how can this help you? Well, as I mentioned to you, there's a lot of conversations about returning back to buildings and what is going to be the new normal. What are we supposed to do? How do we protect our employees, occupants, tenants? How do we prevent the buildings from having to be vacated again? Obviously, it's a very large topic and I'm not going to be able to get into details on all of it, but I'm going to touch on a few things of how to navigate through this new normal, how to figure out what your new normal is. And it's going to be up to you and your team to really decide of how you're going to take this information and what are you going to do with it. But also talk a little bit about the things that you are required to do and then things that are best practices, things that you should be doing. So with that, we'll move into my little disclaimer. Please understand that in today's world, and especially in COVID-19 times, and as we're learning and developing and understanding this better, the information I'm presenting to you right now is up to date as of yesterday. By the end of this presentation, there may be new information that comes out by the end of this week, next month. A lot of things are changing. Example of that, just on the news right now, it said that there's a new variant of E484K that was found in Arizona. Now they're keeping track of that. So everything I give to you is as best up to date as available. However, you must do a little bit of your own research before you implement any of this. You've heard this question. A lot of people say, well, how come this person got more sick and this person didn't get sick? Well, I know a couple that a husband was sick and the wife slept next to him and never got sick. So a lot of my clients have been asking this question, and the way to answer that is we need to understand that everybody's health is going to be a little bit different. The way that our body reacts to these viruses or any type of infection is going to be a little bit different. But the component that I want to focus on is going to be called an interferon. An interferon is a protein. It's a protein that our body releases. Very similar what they're trying to do with the vaccine is to release a protein or have our body generate this protein to be able to protect us against COVID-19 virus. Well, our body naturally releases interferons whenever we encounter any kind of bacteria and viruses that come into our body, and it helps minimize its ability to replicate. There are many different forms of interferons, and interferons are the natural defense that our body has that is released very quickly. Sometimes even within minutes when our body identifies that there's a virus or bacteria that comes into into our bloodstream. To understand interferons and to understand how different people get sick, the science community has been doing a lot of research. There's been a lot of focus on it. And we realized that about 14% of the people who had severe reactions had to do with the way their body reacted and how it released those interferons. Those interferons mistakenly can attack our body. It can attack our immune system. So this is why I say that every single person can have a different reaction. Somebody can get incredibly sick who was absolutely healthy. And on the flip side, somebody who's not very healthy can have very mild symptoms, often referred to as a 24-hour flu. So those are some of the components we understand about it. Interferons are very important to our body. They're our natural first defenses. They continue to attack, and even after they're done, they help our body build a long-term defense. Similar to, again, to vaccine, by introducing these proteins and teaching our body how to recreate it, we're promoting a long-term defense. But beyond interferons, there's another item that we need to understand, and that's called a cytokine. A cytokine storm is often a result of an improper immune system defense or release to this virus. This is why we hear some people getting blood clots, right? A cytokine storm is overreaction of our immune system, and it starts attacking its own tissue, almost like friendly fire. Each person's body will react a little bit differently, but the problem with a cytokine storm is the lasting damage it can leave to our body. It can attack our blood vessels, our kidneys, our lungs, and even create blood clots. And I know if you guys have been paying attention, you hear a lot of people saying blood clots showing up in their body. Well, as the science community continues to study, they're realizing that some of that is because of the virus, some of it is the way our body reacted to when that virus entered our bloodstream. So this is one time again that I'll stress that you can't look at your neighbor or your friend who had a very mild symptom and say that I must be just as safe. We don't know everybody's immune system. There's no way for us to understand it. This is why precaution is necessary. This is why healthy people should also be cautious and take the right steps to prevent themselves from getting infected. This is the same reason why we hear about a 19 or 20-year-old athlete who's absolutely healthy, and then when weeks go by after the virus, they pass away. So please take caution and don't look at your neighbor as an example of how your body will react to this. CDC continues to come out with different information, and it was interesting, about a week or so ago, I heard that CDC has defined the social distance as it pertains to schools. They mentioned that in a school environment, 3 feet is considered sufficient. But yet everywhere else in the whole last, 14, 16 months, we've been hearing about 6 feet. Well, there's not too much information yet why they determine in schools to be 3 feet. It could be the precautions that they take, the cleaning procedures, the plexiglass, whatever the case is. We still have to consider that 6 feet is going to be safe distance. And CDC defines close contact as spending at least 15 minutes with an infected person within a time frame of 24 hours. This is the same reason why close contact and contact tracing is necessary to communicate to people, to let them know that you may have been exposed and you need to quarantine yourself. So please, as you hear this information, as it pertains to our work environment, 6 feet is still the distance that CDC recommends. Now that we got some of the science stuff out of the way, let's talk about some fun things. So things that are new normal. As somebody who's been in the restoration industry for a long time, the term PPE has existed for forever. However, it seems like every single person around the world understands what PPE is. But just like with everything, there's often misinterpretation. As you will see on your screen, that is not a mask. Sure, it's a face covering, but that is not a mask. We've seen a lot of people using gloves. Gloves are a good protection, but just like with everything, if improper use of a glove can actually help spread the virus rather than protecting the community. The other thing to think about it, as we've been using gloves and masks and the shortage of raw material, those gloves have become very expensive, very hard to come by due to shortage of raw materials. And we saw a boat stuck in a canal. I'm sure that is not going to help our supply chain. So just gonna keep that in mind as you write your safety plans to return and you implement certain things or you require certain things to be used. Understand the challenges that come with that and make sure you're prepared for them. One of my most favorite is the face shields. I recently ordered one of these. It's called a ghost mask. And these face shields are, this is what they sell them, is consider them a face shield. But let me tell you, this is not a face shield, but they sell it as such. And every company will come out and make different ways to try to address this. Some of it is funny, some of it is effective, and some of it is not. Additional things that are going to be considered new normal is a check-in or sanitization station. We saw a lot of different companies start producing different hand sanitizers, the liquid ones. Purell was very difficult to come by. So we had some stuff that smelled like tequila and some stuff that smelled like vodka, but nevertheless, we have to understand that this is a necessity for quick cleaning, but it doesn't take place of hand washing or basic hygiene. Disinfecting wipes, disinfecting sprays, as William showed, different devices to apply it, different products, all those have become a norm for us. A lot of janitorial companies, restoration companies, everybody has acquired this equipment. We have a better understanding about it and how to use it. Infrared guns, it's still very funny to me when you come into the building, somebody's like, I gotta take your temperature, right? There's just sometimes very aggressive, but we understand that they're trying to prevent that. As you implement, whether it's a temperature gun or you implement an infrared camera, just make sure you understand its limitation. Like every device out there, it has an effective range. It has some considerations to look at. A very cheap $10 infrared temperature gun that people use on the forehead may have a variance of 2 to 3 degrees. And if your threshold is 101 and it's off by 2 degrees and somebody's actually 102 and it read to you as 100, you may let them into the building, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're safe or healthy. So with masks, as we return back, we are thinking about how to protect our employees, how to protect the tenants. What are the requirements for the mask that they wear? But the question I have for everybody is, how do you pick the right mask? Is any mask appropriate? Is there different things that you need? What kind of physical activity will your employees be doing in order to make sure that the right mask is selected for them? There's all kinds of shapes, sizes, brands. There's ones that have valves and ones that don't have valves. I won't get too much into it because it will get very, very deep and kind of off topic, but just understand the ones that have a valve are great for the wearer, may not be safe for the people around them. But I'm going to talk about these two masks, an N95 and KN95. What is the difference between the two of them? The N95 respirator is a NIOSH approved respirator. NIOSH is a third-party company that tests the effectiveness of that mask. A KN95 mask is often produced in the same factory, using the same materials, using the same procedures. The difference is they don't send this off to NIOSH to be tested. They lower the grade on the mask. They understand that it's not an N95, but the reality of it, most of them are going to be just as effective. This was a response of the industry, of the production and facilities, that when they were running out of material and NIOSH has to test them, there was a delay in production. So there was a big volume of KN95 masks that entered the field. I'll get a little bit later into how to identify a good mask from a bad one, but if you hear KN95 or N95, for the most part, for this purpose of this presentation, they're basically the same mask. But if you look on your right, you will see these are the 6 common masks that we'll see people wear. An N95 mask and a surgical mask are very effective in the way they filter and protect us. There are some benefits to mandating a surgical mask as opposed to an N95 mask as it pertains to OSHA. Further in the slides, I will explain it a little bit more in detail, but just keep that in mind that there are some complications that come with that. Men with facial hair. An image on the left, as you see the outline of where the mask sits, is an ideal way to wear that mask. There are other facial hair options that you may have that will still make the mask effective. But if you have building engineers or you have employees or you have contractors that are coming in with a full-on beard and a mask, they may not be wearing it properly, and that mask may not be filtering the way it's supposed to. Keep this image in mind when assessing the proper way of wearing a mask, proper shaving requirements, and how to pick the right mask. This is my favorite, the ear loop, right? We see people carrying it, or even better, when their nose is exposed, right? They're protecting their mouth. So sure, they will protect the liquids from exiting their mouth, but it doesn't prevent that from entering their system. So if we're gonna require somebody to wear a mask, or if we're gonna mandate that they wear a mask, we must make sure that they understand that they have to wear it properly. They have to understand how to take care of that mask. These are devices that are designed to protect us. And if we don't use them properly, we're not gonna get the protection that we're looking for. Things to consider as it pertains to the workload that you're doing. If you have a building engineer and we're entering a warm climate right now, wearing that mask is difficult. It is difficult for our system to have to pass that air through in both directions. This means that that employee may need more breaks. They may get more tired. They may also need to drink more liquids because of the extra stress that added to their body. Their body may be sweating, higher temperatures, therefore they're losing the liquid out of their system. So understand further that if you're gonna tell somebody to do something, understand the complications, understand what they do for a living, and understand the environment that they work in, that there may be things that you're not considering that needs to be added to the workday. A lot of clients and a lot of friends of mine believe that there is no requirements, no regulations to wear a mask or how you wear a mask. That is incorrect. It may be for the average person. If you tell your husband or your wife or your son to wear a mask, absolutely, there's gonna be no regulations. But OSHA does have regulations as it pertains to employees working for their employer. This is referred to as a 1910.134. It's a respiratory protection plan. Those of you that know OSHA, it is not a fun read. So I found this little slide to make it really easy to understand. Understand this, that an N95 mask, according to OSHA, it is considered a respirator. And if you are requiring an employee to wear a respirator, you must have certain written plans and certain training that comes with that. This slide kind of gives you this little oversight of it, of what things you need to consider. I can send this off further if you guys need this, but without getting deeper into it, basically, if you mandate somebody to wear a mask as an employer, you are required to do certain things to protect the health and safety of that employee. This is a blurb from OSHA. As you see, there's a link at the bottom to it. This will be one of the things that I read. If respiratory protection is not required and the employer did not advise employee to use an N95 dust mask, but the employee requests to use a dust mask, it would be considered voluntary. So this is what I was saying earlier. If you don't require them, but you recommend, then you are safe. But if you are mandating it by the employer, make sure that you protect yourself, make sure you have a written respiratory protection plan in place. It's not that we're afraid that employee may sue somebody or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's always in the back of our mind. The thing that I'm more concerned about is when an employee doesn't understand how to use it, puts the mask on, goes into an environment that is hot, that may not have the same levels of oxygen, and passes out, gets hurt, or even worse, dies. OSHA will come into play. Somebody will be looking at you as an employer to see what negligence or what things you have done wrong to try to come after you for that. So please understand that. Look up OSHA 1910.134, and you'll be able to see a lot more information about that. The executive order from our governor that came out last week. Been getting a lot of calls about this and calls about what must be done. The answer I'm gonna tell you this is talk with your HR, talk to your legal department, talk internally and figure out what will you do with this available information. Will you require the masks to be worn by everybody, employees? Will you recommend it? Is it gonna be voluntary? What will your response be to this change? To me, I understand that this is a sign of we're moving forward, it's getting better and we're recovering, but there's complications that come with this. I've been going to a lot of different businesses recently, and some don't care about a mask anymore and others do. So understand what this means to you and understand how you're going to navigate through this. You may have some people that become a little upset if you still require them to wear a mask, and they may use this document as a defense tool to say, well, the governor said I don't have to, so you can't require it. So my information to you on this is just to consider this, understand it, and understand how you're going to respond to what claims come your way. Let's talk a little bit about buyer beware and what you should know. We talked about the masks. Well, CDC on February 26th of this year released this information stating that they have discovered many companies falsifying the NIOSH rating on their masks. They say they are NIOSH rated, but they're not. They've sold them, a lot of people use them. Understand that there's going to be bad people that take advantage of every situation out there. We're never going to be able to stop that. And just because there's a sticker that says NIOSH on it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It's sales, it's marketing. As William said, there's ways to question those suppliers. If it is truly a NIOSH certified mask, there will be some data that comes with it. The NIOSH community would have tested it, and they would have given you a reading of saying, yes, it's able to filter out to this level. Yes, it's been tested. Yes, it passed our test. Just because somebody's selling and saying that's what it is, please understand that is not always the case. There's been a lot of people doing a lot of bad things and taking advantage of people in this type of situation. The one that bothers me is the one that's up top right now. That looks like an industrial grade filter. They went as far as making a plastic housing out of it. They put the filters in it. They did all of these things. But as you see, on December 21st of last year, they were cited and determined that those are not NIOSH certified. Even though it's not a mask, it looks more like a respirator. People were falsifying that as well. So let's talk a little bit about face shields. What are the good and the bad about the face shield? Well, the positive thing about it is that it protects the entire face. As we saw, the mask will only protect our mouthpiece. The face shield protects the entire face and often is a little bit easier to wear. The negatives to it is that it's not very effective at protecting others. It may protect from things entering your body because it has to go around the shield. But it's pretty easy, especially if the face shield is not too low, to be able to get that to escape. This being the example again. There's really not that much protection around here for my face and for others. So if I sneeze, if I cough, it is able to escape this very easily because air will always take the path of least resistance. Another negative about it is it's very hard to wear it improperly, incorrectly. Most of them go around your face, go down, around your head, go in front of your face. That's it. Can't really screw that up. Negatives, they're uncomfortable. They get heavy. They get in your way. It's hard to see with your peripheral, so you got to understand there might be safety concerns, reflections. There's a lot of different things that must be considered. Face shield alone is never the answer. But the big thing about it, no single piece of equipment is a solution for every environment. You must understand your building. You must understand what your employees do and determine the right equipment for them to use for that particular task. If you don't, and you just take the false safety blanket that just because I put this mask on, I'm good, I'm safe, there's a good likelihood infection can spread and somebody can get sick. This came from an NBC News. I kind of like this. It was an interesting read. They talked a little bit about different face shields. It touched on the point that a lot of experts agree that a face shield is an addition to the face mask. It shouldn't take the place of it. The company that created this, as you can see, and I'm going to try to zoom in, they advertised it as being the only piece of protection. On the picture, they have a woman wearing it. That's it. Well, obviously, with the size of this face shield, there's no way I can put a mask on. And if I do, this is going to be against the mask. So that you got to understand the equipment you're buying and what you're implementing, but understand that this alone will never give you the protection that you seek. Some examples of proper face shields. This is how it should be worn. This is what we saw people in healthcare using. This is the appropriate way. It protects your face. It has the mask. This is the right way to do this. Is it comfortable? Probably not. Does it get hot? Absolutely. Examples of improper face shields. Awesome fashion statement, great for sun protection, probably not good for COVID-19 protection. Once again, great fashion statement, looks good, probably matches the outfit, but it is not a good protection as it pertains to protecting us from a virus. This is very similar to this type of approach. It looks like a mask, but it's actually a face shield. There's a lot of gaps around there to allow you to breathe, and that makes it not as protective. And you can see his eyes are still open as well. And having those glasses sit there is probably gonna get uncomfortable, and anything that's uncomfortable, people will tend to take it off and put it back on. Doing so, they potentially cross-contaminating, touching those devices. Same thing here, very fashionable. Believe it looks like a Louis Vuitton, right? Looks great. However, not an appropriate mask. My favorite, definitely not appropriate. Cool factor, not appropriate. So let's talk a little bit about disinfectants, wipes, liquids. How many of you ever read the back label of basic household products like bleach, like Lysol and Pine Sol? I would venture out to say small percentage. It's not uncommon. It's not a bad thing. If we grew up with bleach, we understand how we use it. We maybe look at the back of it, how to mix it, but we understand bleach. So to sit there and read the label is probably not something that we want to do. However, today, we're going to take a look at that little label. As you see in the front of it, it's going to say, see the back panel. So the manufacturer is telling you, please read the back of it and understand how to use our product. This is directly from the back of that label. The key words I want you to pay attention to are right here. How many of you knew that prior to using bleach as a disinfectant, you must pre-wash that surface? That means if you're using it on floors, you must mop the floors with whatever your cleaning product is, or even with bleach, and then mop it again to consider disinfectant. This is on the back of the label of bleach. My mother-in-law is Hispanic, and let me tell you, I blew her mind when I told her she was using bleach wrong. She's used it, her mother's used it, her grandmother's used it. They never really read the back of the label. And when I showed this to them, they couldn't believe it. Pine Sol. Did you guys know that Pine Sol has been approved by EPA to actually kill COVID-19 virus? The regular household product Pine Sol is able to do it, which symbolizes to me that often we've been running around with these harsh chemicals using a nuclear bomb on an anthill. Pine Sol is able to help out. So don't fall for those new products, the new shiny objects. There's things around you that you can use already that can help combat this virus. This is directly from Pine Sol. And as we look at the back of that label, look up top. It says for general disinfecting and heavy soil surfaces, pre-cleaning is required. So the question I have for you is, what is determined as a heavy soil surface? Well, according to the disinfectants and the way that they use, oil on our telephones, on our keyboards is a biological film. That is considered heavy soil. It doesn't have to be a 2-inch buildup of dust. It could be something small like fingerprints, oil, a little bit of dust. That is heavy soil. So you must pre-clean that surface before using Lysol. Pine Sol. Lysol. This is probably one of my favorites. We've all seen the commercial of a door handle and somebody just sprays it on, or remote controls that they go around the house and say, Lysol kills all these different things. It's been approved for COVID-19. However, on Lysol's website, there's an instruction video to use Lysol that is advertised to us. You spray it on and you're good to go. So I went further. I got a label from one of the bottles in my house, and I zoomed in on this part right here. Nowhere in the commercial does it tell us that those surfaces that they're spraying on have already been pre-cleaned. Look at the first one, pre-cleaned surfaces prior to use. This is on the label of that product. I don't know how many of us have ever been told that we must wash the remote control or clean it and then spray Lysol on it. We believe that the product we use is good to go. So please be aware of the items you're using and the proper way to use them. The question I have for everybody is, what do they all have in common? And it's very simple. Every EPA registered disinfectant label has this sentence on it. It is a violation of federal law to use this product in any other way than is according to its label. As a homeowner, nobody's gonna come after me. My fiance is not gonna sue me for using Lysol wrong, but it does open you up to liability. If you have a certain product that you purchase from your supplier and you don't truly understand how to properly use it, and you use it improperly, and it ever goes to court, all you need is reasonable doubt. Somebody will say, well, you didn't understand how to use this product, you used it incorrectly. That means that person got sick in your building and you are responsible. And according to all the insurance companies, they're gonna end up settling. So please read the label, understand what it is you have and what are you using. Questions is, back to using it incorrectly. EPA clearly states that you are not allowed to use that product in any other way besides the way it is written on the label. Doing so, not only are you violating the label, but you may have EPA that comes down and cites you or investigates or even just audits it. And none of us really want EPA in our building or our companies or our teams, because they go looking for problems, they're probably gonna find them. There's a lot of different information to help you understand how to use it. The part that I liked about this slide is if you look at the bottom right corner, it says don't use harsh chemicals, because harsh chemicals cannot differentiate between a healthy human host or a bad virus cell on the table. So using some of those very harsh disinfectants can actually create a health problem. Back to buyer beware. Will EPA take enforcement actions against companies making false claims? This is a question I've been asking since the very beginning. When will they start enforcing it? Well, the reality of it is that they've been so busy dealing with everything else that's going on that it's very hard for them to run around and enforce it everywhere. But they're starting to. They're starting to at November 9th of 2020. This company was cited $213,668. That's $250,000 because they imported an unregistered disinfectant product. Nobody got hurt. There was product that just wasn't registered. So please understand that salesmen, product manufacturers, chemical companies, they're in the business of selling the product. But please buyer beware. Beyond that, EPA is still continuing to work to identify any COVID-19 disinfecting scams that existed. The companies that went around and didn't follow the EPA labels, didn't follow the CDC requirements, didn't follow OSHA regulations, and went around to what I refer to as sprayed the juice. They went around, they sprayed it and said, you're safe. So please understand, now that we have more information, there's ways for you to find the resources to make sure that the contractor you're hiring, the product that you're buying, the procedures that you're using, are they in fact correct? And is that the best option for you? Is there anything to make our surfaces resistant long-term? This topic has been kind of a frustrating one for me. There's been multiple products on the market. A lot of them reached out to me and attempted to sell this. And their claim is that once I use their product, the surface will remain protected for as little as 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I will tell you this, that according to the EPA, my slide messed up on that one, as you will see the second paragraph right here. While there are some EPA registered products with residual efficacy against bacteria, there are no publicly available EPA registered products that can be used to inactivate the virus over the course of hours to months after they're applied. Basically means there is nothing out there that will protect the surface after somebody comes in contact with it. But there will be companies out there that advertise this. I've seen it on Facebook, I've seen it on LinkedIn. I've had a lot of them reach out to me. I won't drop those names, but there are many companies that are doing this. They're using marketing approaches to say EPA registered on food surfaces. That's true, they are. But that doesn't mean it's EPA registered disinfectant against COVID-19. Those are two different things. So please understand what you're buying and please understand how to properly use that. In conclusion, the points that I made today, make sure you understand the complications, regulations, and requirements about the request you make to your vendors, to your employees, to other people in the buildings, tenants. Make sure that you provide the proper training to them. If you're gonna require them to wear a mask, they must understand how to properly care for that mask, how to properly take it off and put it on. how to determine when that mask is no longer effective and needs to be disposed of. Make sure that you follow all applicable regulations. Make sure you read the label. Make sure you talk to your supplier and understand what is the proper way to use that product. Adding double amount of bleach does not make it double strength or more effective. Sometimes it can be counterproductive. And the last thing is, don't fall for the new shiny object. There's always going to be somebody who's going to come out with the newest, greatest, this is top of the line, you'll be the first one to get it. They're in the business of selling that product. They're in the business of making those chemicals. They're going to make claims and use very strategic marketing approaches to make sure that they protect themselves against liability, but at the same time confuse the consumer to make them believe that it's actually more effective than it really is. With that, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Hopefully I didn't bore too many people, but it's a difficult topic to try not to get too deep and scientific in it and touch on the surface of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergey. Very good.
Sergey, can I ask you to go back and show the picture of the back of your Lysol label? This is Shannon.
Absolutely. Give me just 1 second.
So I could make a comment here.
The screen. Okay. You want me to zoomed in one?
No, the next one, I think it was. Yeah, the next one, the one that was showing, there you go. Okay, just to remind people, if you look, it says to sanitize and to disinfect. Those are two different things. Clearly understanding they are not interchangeable. Also, when it says that the surface must remain wet for 10 seconds, that almost every one of the disinfectants or sanitizers require the surface to keep wet. Same when you use hand sanitizer on your hand. You need to let it evaporate for it to do its job. So that was my thing. The other thing is, if product A is wonderful and product B is stupendous, the reason they're in two different bottles is because they don't belong mixed. So never mix products. That's my 2 cents on it.
I will actually go a little bit beyond that, Shannon, as well. So when it says to disinfect, must remain wet for 3 minutes. I've done this test 5 times. This Lysol label, actually, I ripped off of the bottle I have. An average office building with the normal temperatures that you have there, with the spray is required here, 6 to 8 inches away, 3 to 4 seconds. The longest I was able to keep the surface wet was 2 minutes and 21 seconds.
Here, here, that's a fact. And it
3 minutes is a long time when you watch
Yes, it
it
is.
dry.
Yes, it is. So, but people need the same thing. A lot of people put hand sanitizer on and they'll dry their hands. It's like, no. So
I have a question, Sergey. Can you share that or send out that mask criteria comparison that you had? I think it's really good information.
Are you talking about the one that talked about how to properly wear the mask and the facial hair in that one, or the one that compares the 6 of them side by side?
The 6 of them, because a lot of people wear those cloth ones and it's fashionable and cute, but I don't know. I mean, I just want to make sure people understand what that is, the ramifications of that.
Absolutely.
So
I can
I would
send
love
that
that.
out. I'll Olympia, I'll send that to you. So if anybody has those requests, they can get it. So that way you can
Great.
kind of distribute it. But Monica, you're absolutely right. When I enter the hospital, even the masks that we wear that we know it's 3-ply, it's MERV 12, they often hand me their own masks. The hospital environments understand that there's so many different variations. They're not even going to try to assess them. They're just going to tell you, we don't accept them all. These are the only ones we accept.
Yeah. Okay, very interesting, especially the OSHA stuff. We're asking people to wear a mask and they go into a hot area or some uncomfortable area that could cause a lot of damage and issues with their health. So
Right.
we need to be mindful of that. No, appreciate it. Good presentation.
Thank you. Any other
Sergey,
questions?
don't you have to be certified to use an N95? I mean, you literally have to go through training and certified.
That is where the 1910.134 goes into it. You must be fit tested. So there are different sizes of N95. A lot of people believe that's a single size fit all. They are variations. Healthcare community and the senior living has been cited a lot on that. I know we don't have a lot of members that pertain to that here. I didn't get into it, but that is exactly what they're being cited on, is that their respiratory protection plan did not have a protocol for fit testament, And beyond that, if we want to get even deeper, with our guys, when we wear respirators, we do a pulmonary lung function test to test the person's ability to pass the air through when they exhausted and be able to draw the air in when they intake. Not an expensive test. Makes you want to pass out because they give you this tube and say, okay, blow until you can't blow no more. And then once you're done and you're all ready, they go, let's do it again. Anybody else? Anything else? I'm looking at the list
Excellent
here.
job.
Shannon, you got all that. No written questions. If nobody has anything else, I am I'm all wrapped up on my end.
I have a question. Do you, I know obviously you did this presentation for here, but do you offer your presentation services to nonprofit organizations?
Absolutely. So my approach to this is that this is not meant to be as a commercial. The way I look at this is to protect human life, to protect employees. If we help educate everybody on a better way to do it, that protects me, that protects my guys, because we're all in the same community. We have approximately 55 different presentations of different topics, whether it's related to mold, asbestos, lead, indoor air quality, water, smoke. So often when I work with organizations, I find out what is it they want to learn about, find out who my audience is, and we would tailor a presentation to help hit on those points and help provide some education on it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course. Yes, okay. William, we either did really good or really bad because we didn't get too many questions. So I will take that as a win.
No, I thought that was outstanding. There's so much good information in your presentation, Sergey. I really got a lot out of that and appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you both for presenting. You both did an excellent job. Everybody got a lot of great information. Appreciate it from both of you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Great. If it's okay with our presenters, BOMA would like to take the recording of today's presentation and upload it to our YouTube channel where we've been uploading some of our Zoom presentations and make them available to our members or those who attended.
You have the approval on my side.
Yeah, you have mine as well.
Excellent.
Okay, is everybody good?
Last chance. Well, you guys were amazing and wonderful. Thank you for that valuable information. Jeremy, thank you and your committee for putting this together. And
Good job, guys.
yeah, it was great. So thank you all. I hope you have a great rest of your
All right,
day.
thank you,
Come on,
guys.
everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.